I'm good to go.
Great. Right. Morning, folks. Welcome to the Cabinet Committee Equalities, which has been held virtually for health and safety reasons. The meeting will be recorded and will appear on the Council's website as soon as practically possible. You all know the drill by now, but we'll just go through it for the recording. So as the chairperson, I will be the only person who will have their camera on throughout the meeting. Please keep your cameras and microphones turned off until you are called to speak by the chair. The Democratic Services officers will be monitoring the meeting and they will be keeping charge of people's microphones, so don't annoy them. And we will also be having officers speaking throughout the meeting, so please bearing that in mind and keep to time. We will now proceed to the agenda item. So first agenda item is apologies for absences. I have received apologies from Councillor Spanswick, the Cabinet Member for Communities, as well as Councillor Williams, the Cabinet Member for Resources, and from the Corporate Director for Social Services and Wellbeing. Do any other members have apologies for me? Michael.
Thanks, Chair. I also received apologies from Councillor Alan Wathen and the Chief Executive. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Michael. Cool. Right, agenda item 2, declarations of interests. If anyone has a declaration, either personal or prejudicial, in accordance with the provisions of the Members' Code of Conduct adopted by the Council in September 2008, please raise your hand now. Councillor Thomas.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Personal interest in all matters being raised today. I work for a charity that specialises in equalities, but there's no conflict on today's agenda. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Thomas. Right, if there's no one else. Right, moving to agenda item 3, the approval of minutes from the last meeting. Could I have a Cabinet Member to move and to second, please?
I'm happy to second, thank you.
Great. Can I move them? I presume I can move them. Unless Democratic Services tell me otherwise, I'm going to say that we have.
Or I believe the leader probably was present, Chair, so the leader could move them if I think he's here.
I'm here, Chair, but I think I tendered my apologies at that meeting. So I think this may need to be deferred to a future meeting, unless somebody who's not present can move them as an accurate record.
Chair, if I could come in, yeah, it's your duty as a committee to approve the minutes, irrespective of attendance or not, under the 1972 Local Government Act. So it's perfectly in order for you to approve those minutes.
I'm happy for them to be happy to move the minutes then, chairs, as they've been published, etc. and I'm being challenged.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you, leader. I'll take that as the mover, and then Dep as seconder. Thank you both. Right, on to the reports proper. So agenda item 4, annual report on equalities.
You froze, Rhys.
Sorry, Chair, I think we lost you for a few seconds there.
Oh, I'm sorry. Deborah, are you there to give this report? There you are.
Yes, I am, Chair. Thank you. I wasn't sure if it was just frozen my end. Yes, thank you. I'm going to present today's annual report on equality in the workforce for 2021-22. As suggested, it is an annual report which is brought to this committee each year to provide an update on the data and information with regard to the Council's employed workforce. For this report, the information is taken as at the 31st of March, because there's no trend information here. This information assists us to meet our statutory duties and obligations in relation to the Equality Act 2010, as well as our duties with regard to the public sector equality duty and Welsh language standards. The information is held at Appendix 1. And I will just draw members' attention to a few points. I won't go through all the detailed numbers. You'll be delighted to hear. I think it's a reminder each time we look at this information. The majority of the information is given by employees on a voluntary basis, and whilst we would like to have a full data set, we have to respect the wishes of employees. But throughout the year, we will do several reminders to try to encourage people to feel positive and be able to share that information with us, which obviously is held confidentially. This year, our data has been extended to include information in regard to numbers for those who are pregnant or on maternity leave, religion and beliefs. So if we turn to Appendix 1, we've still got lots of numbers in the report, but we are trying to present it in a helpful and meaningful way. We just start off by referring to the fact that we have now got an equality, diversity and inclusion policy. This wasn't in place previously, albeit our commitments were there, but they were in different places. So it's now brought together in a policy, and that was an important thing to happen last year. Looking quickly, I'll just make a few comments, not go into great detail. Headcount and gender. The council continues to have quite a large proportion of female employees in the workforce when we compare to other local authorities. However, as local authorities, members will know that we all provide services in different ways in terms of those services that are provided in-house and commissioned. But that is a fact of our workforce profile that is quite high in relation to female employees. Looking at disability, the main thing there I would like to draw attention to is the fact that the council, we've been working with both Remploy and Scope in the last year in trying to promote employment opportunities to people with a disability, and there has been some good positive outcomes from that work, and we really look to build on that going forward and to see how we can extend that, particularly for people who have a disability. But also looking at the next section there in terms of ethnicity, we would like to undertake to a similar exercise and work with partners to see how we can ensure that all employment opportunities with the council are open to people from a variety of backgrounds. Age profile, a lot of figures there again, but in summary, the council's workforce, the average age is 47 and 46 in schools. We are showing an ageing employment workforce. Again, that's no different from what other local authorities are reporting. And in terms of succession planning, that's work that we will be concentrating on going forward with directorates. But we have had some positive outcomes from apprenticeships and graduates, which is part of our work really in relation to succession planning. Sexual orientation. We haven't got high reporting on this area, so that's something that perhaps I can give some thought to with colleagues in the Equalities team in terms of how perhaps we can encourage and support people to provide that information. And I'm sure things like Pride Cymru and the council being a proud council, that type of work can help us with that. Marriage and civil partnership, haven't highlighted anything in particular there. Religion and belief, pregnancy, maternity leave, these are maternity leave, sorry, pregnancy and maternity. These are new items that we haven't reported on previously, so we have the information in there. So it's the first time we've been reporting on these. And there are some grids there showing the numbers of employees who are reporting as having caring responsibilities. Again, this is an area that we would like to concentrate on going forward. We asked in our last staff survey of the people, of our employees who would be interested to participate in a staff network for caring duties, and I'm sure that we have a lot more carers in our employment than are recorded on here. Even for those people who have updated their information, perhaps people don't properly appreciate that they are actually a carer, in the definition of caring in this context. And lots of figures again with regard to our workforce and people's capabilities in terms of speaking Welsh, reading Welsh, and being able to write Welsh. And just a bit of information in the report then saying about the opportunities that are available to the workforce and the different types of opportunities available to the workforce for those employees who want to learn to speak Welsh. And in particular now, it's become a standard part of all apprenticeship training that all apprentices have the opportunity to undertake Welsh language skills training as part of their apprenticeship. And I know it's not in the report, but there's also opportunity for people to undertake their apprenticeship through the medium of Welsh language if they so wish. So they're the points I wanted to bring to your attention, Chair, for noting.
Thanks, Deborah. That was really interesting. Could I get a mover and a seconder from the Cabinet for the recommendations on the report? Don't all jump at once.
Yeah. Can I move? I'll move.
Thanks, Councillor
I'll second the Councillor Good. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Blundell. And I'll take any questions if anyone has anything for Deborah on this. Don't see any hands. So just a couple of things from me, Deborah. It's a really interesting report. I was having a good rip through it the other day. I just wondered, in terms of gender, are we looking at whether we have non-binary included in our future reports? Because I think obviously that is a very important issue at the moment, and I think it is something as a council, speaking to sort of LGBTQ awareness and support across the council, I think it is important that we start looking at that. Is that something we're looking at?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, that actually it was something that I had intended to mention when presenting the report. It's quite straightforward for us to do it in terms of identifying what the new questions are, but we have to build that into our system so that we can report back out. So it's taken a bit longer than we would have wished, but work has progressed, and I'm hoping that when we presenting this report in the future, that there will be appropriate options for employees to identify.
Cool, thanks for that. Now, the other thing that occurred to me as well is, I think I did have a question on sort of the ageing demographic of employees and how we're strategically sort of looking at that, but I think you've already answered that for me. But in terms of BAME employees, I was just wondering if we knew how we compared to sort of the overall makeup of Bridgend, because I think we're at something like 2.4%, I think it was. I just wondered if we knew how that stacked up sort of more generally across the borough.
Scrambling in my notes to have a look, but I think it's 1.9.
Okay.
I can come back to you and clarify that at a later point.
Cool, thanks, Deborah. I'll just bring in Leader. I think he's got his hand up. So Councillor David, please.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Always a very interesting read as an annual report, and thanks. It's a comprehensive one as well, Chair. I wanted to ask around the efforts we're continuing to make with local schools and the college to try and increase take-up and interest from younger people, because I was thinking about that description of us having an ageing workforce, and also the way that we want to try and better reflect the diversity of Bridgend. And I suppose better way of doing that than reaching out to our schools, because that's the next generation. And I know that we've done work in the past, haven't we, with, for example, our special schools to make sure that those young people with additional needs have those better routes into employment with us. But it might be timely to reflect that for, like I say, all sorts of reasons. For our the ethnic makeup, a Welsh speaking a workforce. We know that obviously a much higher percentage of our students are speaking Welsh than the workforce itself, and we've always struggled, haven't we, to recruit Welsh speaking workers. So perhaps there's a time now to reflect on that, particularly with the wider problem we've got of just a real shortage of people coming forward generally. And we could link that in with our apprenticeship program, which I know is a shared passion of myself and the group manager for HR. We've made much progress on, but we could probably do more, couldn't we? And try and make that more reflective of our communities. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Leader. Do you want to come back on that, Deb?
Yes, lots of very relevant things there. Thank you, Leader. Just to update you in terms of schools, there's a careers event coming up. We're working closely with colleagues in employability, and we're inviting the schools to that event, which isn't something that hasn't happened for a number of years. And I think, picking up on the point you've made, it is about raising the profile of the council, of the roles that are undertaken in the council, but also promoting Welsh speaking and other diversity issues. I'm pleased to say we've got a new apprentice in HR. I've pinched one out of the investment that we've got, and that post is to help us to work with apprentices and to promote apprentices. So we're going to have a better profile within schools as well. So there's a big agenda there. And we've had some success in the past in recruiting Welsh speaking apprentices, and it was specifically following a bespoke piece of work we'd undertaken with the Welsh Comprehensive, and I think there's opportunity for us to be doing that again, especially given the numbers of apprentices that we now have. Thank you.
Thanks, Deb. I don't see any more hands, so Leader's come back.
I have just one other quick question and possible suggestion. Myself and the Deputy Leader and the Mayor were privileged to attend the recent awards event for participants in the Bee-Leaf and Would-Be scheme organised by Arwen for the work-based training opportunities for people with learning disabilities. And I just wanted to again check if we'd revisited that as a route. I think we can be very proud of our record in terms of providing supported placements for people with learning disabilities. But it's just whether we've considered that as another route into the workforce as well. And I know those the people that we do have working for us are very valued members of staff as well. So that was my question. Thanks.
Deborah, is there anything you want to come back on that?
It's just a timely reminder, and yes, we must ensure that we make all possible links and to with regard to the leader's comment, really.
Great. Cool. I don't see anyone else, so with that we'll move on. Deborah, thank you so much for presenting the report to the committee. We'll let you go. and move on to agenda item 5, which is the Equality Impact Assessment Annual Review. And could I ask the Group Manager for Transformation and Customer Services to present for us, please? Phil, if you're there.
Morning, everyone. Yeah, for the purpose of the recording, I'm Phil O'Brien and I'm the Group Manager for Transformation and Customer Services. So I'm presenting the report today on the Equality Impact Assessments and the Annual Review for 2021 to 2022. So for the purpose of this report, the purpose is to provide members with the annual update on the Council's requirement to undertake equality impact assessments, an overview of the Council's approach to EIAs, and an outline of EIAs undertaken in the Council service areas in the financial year of 21 to 22. So as you can see in the background section of the report at the bottom of page 25 in your pack, the Equality Act 2010 sets out both general and specific duties for local authorities in Wales, one of which relates to assessing the impact of policies and practices. So the Equality Impact Assessment is a tool used to assess how new or changes to existing policies or services or functions impact on different sectors of society. So EIAs help consider the 9 protected characteristics as well as the impact on the Welsh language. So it's important that the lead person drafting or reviewing a policy or strategy within the service area conducts the EIA, and the EIA screening forms are retained by the relevant service area. There is a dedicated section to EIAs on every cabinet report, and where a full EIA is needed, this should also be included as an appendix to that report. So on page 27 of your pack, you will see a section on EIA training. An e-learning module continues to be available for employees, which provides an overview of EIAs, their role in improving services, and a guide to conducting them. So during the last financial year, 42 employees have completed EIA training, either via e-learning or via workshops, and the split by directorate is shown in the report. So to date, 266 council employees have completed the EIA e-learning module. There have been 5 socio-economic duty webinars delivered since April 2021, with a total of 56 employees attending. The webinar is available online for staff to view at any time via the Learning and Development website. So during the same period, 4 full EIAs were undertaken and accompanied cabinet reports, and these are listed in Appendix 1, which is on page 31 of your pack. Also, 33 EIA screenings were undertaken during this period, and these are also listed as Appendix 2 on pages 33 and 34. These screenings were referenced in the relevant cabinet reports and indicated that the policies being assessed could either be screened out or would require a full EIA to be undertaken within the relevant time frame, which is dependent on the impact. So that's a quick brief note from me, Chair, and I'd therefore like to take you straight to the recommendations of this report and ask you to note the progress made during 21-22 in relation to EIA completions and training. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Could I get a mover and seconder from the Cabinet for this report recommendations, please?
Yeah, I'll move it, Councillor Good.
Thank you, Councillor Farr. And a seconder?
Happy to second that, Chair.
Thank you, Leader. Do we have any questions for Mr. O'Brien on this report, please? Don't see any hands. From me, Phil, I was just wondering, so, you know, I think it's really encouraging to hear that we've had over 250 members of staff undertaking the EIA training. But in terms of sort of what we're doing to drive that forward, because I think it is one of those things where it's important for both officers and members actually to have this understanding and you know, in everything we do, have an eye to sort of ensuring that equalities are considered. So just to ask, what are we doing, particularly in terms of sort of the front-facing directorates, such as communities, which do have a real, you know, this is the sort of thing that they need to be considering constantly in their work. What are we doing to promote the uptake of that e-learning or face-to-face sessions on the EIA?
So we're constantly working with HR Chair to to keep reinforcing our message to staff. We've also included it as part of the new managers induction program, so we attend those sessions to encourage people. It is part of a mandatory e-learning session as well, so we just constantly sort of reinforcing really the need for everyone to undertake this as part. And we've also got dedicated Equalities officer now within the team, and part of that we'll start looking at checking the cabinet reports, making sure that the relevant sort of EAAs have been completed, and doing some sort of sanity checks as well, and reaching out to those service areas that way as well.
Great, thanks for that. Anyone got any more comments or questions for Phil on this? No? Okay, cool. Well, in which case I'll move on to the next agenda item. I can't let you go, Phil. It seems that it's you and me for the duration now. So on to agenda item 6, which is the implementation of the socio-economic duty a year on. So Phil, if I could ask you to take us through that report, please.
Okay, and again, it's quite a short report, so it won't take too long to go through it. But again, the purpose of this report is to provide committee with the information on the socio-economic duty 1 year on from its implementation on the 31st of March 2021. So the socio-economic duty came into force in Wales at the end of March 21 as a statutory requirement with an aim to improve decision making and help those who are socio-economically disadvantaged. So tackling inequality at the heart of decision making and building on the good work public bodies are already doing. So to ensure that the socio-economic duty is fully considered as part of the Council's governance and strategic decision making process, the Council has adopted the following initiatives. So we include the socio-economic impact within the full corporate equality impact assessments and the initial screenings, and to ensure managers consider the implications to the socio-economic disadvantaged. We also produce guidance and corporate learning and development training for staff on the implementation of the socio-economic duty and the equality impact assessment. As I said in the previous report, a total of 33 EIA screenings and 4 full EIAs have been completed in the last financial year across directorates. And of the 33 EIAs completed, 4 indicated that there would be a positive impact on the socio-economic disadvantaged, where the other 10 were identified as no impact. So no EIAs displayed a negative impact on the socio-economic disadvantaged. So of the 4 EIAs that identified a positive impact, these were in relation to the strategic changes made on the following proposals, which are the procedure for the appointment of local authority governors, the new transitional foster care policy, the relocation and refurbishment of Maple Tree House, and the provision of a regulated home care service framework. And details of each of these can be found in your pack on pages 36 to 38. So that, again, Chair, is the brief presentation from me. So again, I'd like to take you to the recommendation to ask you to receive and consider this report and information. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Could I get a mover and seconder from Cabinet for this report, please?
Happy to move, Councillor Good.
Councillor Farr, and a seconder.
Happy to second, Councillor Good.
Thank you, Councillor Blundell. Does anyone have any questions on this report for Phil? Cool. In which case, I haven't got anything on that, so we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is agenda item number 7, which is update on Equalities work within schools, which is page 41, I believe, of the packs. Phil, if you could take us through that, please.
Okay, thank you all. Before I start, I'd just like to say I'm accompanied here today by Susan Roberts, who's the Group Manager for School Support, and would be happy to answer any questions you may have in relation to the equalities work that's happening within schools. So the purpose of this report is to provide committee with information in relation to racial and or discriminative incidents within schools, as monitored using the racist incident report form, along with initiatives to combat racism within schools. So since March 2019, schools were provided with an updated racist incident report form and guidance. In August 2019, Welsh Government announced several grant-funded streams to deal with hate crime, and amongst these was a project to work specifically in 100 schools across Wales, with the aim to deliver critical thinking skills and to raise awareness of all aspects of hate crime in schools. So the 5 schools initially identified are listed in section 3.6 of the report, which you will find on page 42 of your pack. In January 2020, WLGA commissioned Show Racism the Red Card as their preferred partner to deliver the project to those schools identified across Wales. The project aims to equip school staff, including teachers and key support staff such as receptionists or break time supervisors, with the skills to challenge hate crime through separate trainer-style workshops. In the academic year 20 to 2021, there have been 25 racist incidents reported by schools across the county borough. Incidents were reported by 12 schools, and again, these are listed in your pack on page 42. Incidents are recorded by incident type and were recorded as 18 verbal abuse or insults, 4 racist comments in the course of a discussion, 2 social media posts, and 1 refusal to cooperate with others because of religion, ethnicity, or language. You will see in the report on page 43 the incidents showing the age of both the perpetrators and victims. In 2 separate incidences, there were more than 1 perpetrator, and on 1 occasion there was no identified perpetrator. On 4 occasions, there was no identified victim. 24 perpetrators were recorded as white British, and 3 perpetrators were recorded as white and black African. 20 of the perpetrators were recorded as male, 7 recorded as female, and 1 non-identified perpetrator. And the perpetrator to victim count identified is listed in the report under section 4.1.5, which is on page 44 of your pack. Of the 25 incidents recorded, a range of interventions took place, some of which had multiple interventions per incident. And these included parents being contacted in the form of either letter, phone call, or face-to-face meetings, and there were 21 of those. There were 14 verbal reprimands, 7 detentions, 5 fixed-term exclusions, 6 internal referral or internal exclusion, and 2 well-being support or restorative exercises. On 3 occasions, referrals were made to local police community support officers for additional support. Due to the onset of the COVID pandemic, delivery of the hate crime project within schools was postponed. In April 2021, after discussions between representatives between Welsh Government and the WLGA, a new funding arrangement was agreed to fund the remainder of the project during the financial year 21 to 22, and included an additional funding allocation, which meant 2 additional schools in each local authority were included. So for Bridgend, these were Porthcawl Comprehensive and Ysgol Gyfun Gymraeg Llangynoed. To date, 4 schools have received sessions from Show Racism the Red Card via face-to-face delivery or webinars, and the number of participants is again shown in the report under section 4.2.4 on page 45. For information, the discrimination incident reporting form and guidance document has since been updated for the academic year 21-22 and was distributed to all schools in September 21. The form now allows schools to report discrimination incidents against all protected characteristics. The updated form will be reported on in November's committee meeting. Therefore, I'd again like to take you to the recommendation of the report and ask that the committee receives and considers it. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Can I get a mover and seconder from the Cabinet, please?
Yeah, happy to move, Councillor Good.
Thank you, Councillor Farr. And a seconder?
Happy to second, Chair.
Thank you, Leader. And can I take any questions or comments on this report, please? Leader?
Thank you, Chair. I think it's a very helpful report. I just wanted to ask if we are able to identify any trends, positive or negative, over a number of years, because this is an annual report, and it is really helpful to have that granular detail. And then the second question I have is about the delivery method of the training. I welcome the fact that we're looking at a model where the training is rolled out to all schools, but I wasn't sure if the activity was because it was at one stage focused around workshops with pupils, and it indicates that in the report. And I'm not sure if it's shifting to training for teachers, or if it's a combination of direct workshops with pupils and teachers, because there's reference in the report to teachers as well, isn't there? So I just wanted to ask that a question. And also then, Phil, I know that previously we've had very positive feedback, haven't we, around the value of the work of Show Racism, the red card with our schools, and the impact it has. And I wanted to check if that feedback, anecdotal or otherwise, was still positive, and whether we need to consider building in, if we haven't got one, a method of qualitative assessment of the work, because it's such an important area of work for the authority in terms of helping to tackle, I hope, any racism that does take place in our schools. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Leader. Phil, do you want to come back on that?
Yeah, so if I just pick up the information regarding the trend data, we have got the data for previous years, Leader, so more than happy to pull that together to show the trends and share to the committee. And then we'll also make sure that we include that in future annual reports going forward. And also, similarly then, with the information regarding the feedback from Show Racism in the red card, we can add to a piece of work to have a look at getting some of that feedback collected as well. To share. I don't know if Susan's here, so I don't know if she wants to come in terms of the delivery of the sessions within schools and what schools are doing in terms of that.
Yeah, thank you. So Sue Roberts, Group Manager for School Support. Yeah, I think in terms of the delivery, it's outlined in the report that there are workshops for both the pupils and staff. Again, I think they've been very well received and seem to be making a positive impact. And I would echo what Phil has just said about the positive response about Show Racism and the red card. Certainly, you know, the schools have come back and feel that that's something that is making a difference.
Great, thanks for that, Susan. Do we have anyone else wanting to come in on this? No, just one from me, actually, and this might be something that Susan can help answer. So I noticed that the report notes that the work is focused on Key Stage 3, and the schools selected for it are all secondary schools, but that when listing out where incidents have happened, actually quite a few of them are primaries rather than secondaries. So I just wondered what work was being done to sort of ensure that children in primary school age, in sort of Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2, you know, what training is being put in place there if there is a greater number of incidents taking place in primary schools rather than secondary.
I'm not going to be able to say hand on heart the training that's taken place there, other than what they would be doing ordinarily as part of their teaching, in terms of teaching about, you know, importance of relationships and respect for one another. And so certainly a number of the primary schools are involved with rights respect in schools. I think seeking to address those kind of issues early on, and obviously to be educating the children about perhaps what they may have said and where it's come from, and actually how they need to consider that from someone else's point of view, and a kind of empathy response. I'd have to go back, I think, and check what other training that takes place in Key Stage 1 or the foundation phase in Key Stage 2, I should say.
Great, thanks for that, Susan. If there's nothing else, we'll move on. Great. Well, thank you, Susan, for helping us out with that report as well. Moving on to agenda item 8, which is an update report on the implementation of Welsh Language Measure 2001 and Welsh Language Standards. Over to you, Phil.
Thank you very much again. Quite a short report on this. and the purpose is to update committee on the implementation of the Welsh Language Measure 2011 and the Welsh Language Standards. So since the Council received its compliance notice from the Welsh Language Commission in 2015, progress towards implementing the 171 assigned standards has continued, and updates on compliance has been provided at every Cabinet Committee Equalities meeting since April 2016. So key progress since the last update report was presented in July 21 has been the Welsh and Education Strategic Plan. Consultation was launched in September 21. This consultation invited views on Gen Council's 10-year West Plan and aimed to seek the views of residents, workforce, elected members and stakeholders on the proposed West for 22 to 32. The consultation closed in December 21 and results were presented to Cabinet in January 22. And following Cabinet approval, the draft WESP has been submitted for Welsh Government for them to consider. And following feedback from Welsh Government on the 24th of June, a revised draft WESP was submitted, which is awaiting approval and it's due to be implemented in September 22. So since the last update, we've received a new complaint relating to the Welsh language. In March 22, the Commissioner received a complaint from a member of the public regarding Arwen Cultural Trust, who were responsible for delivering services on behalf of the Council. In the complaint, it was identified that Arwen were not fully aware of the requirements upon them under the Welsh language standards, and it appeared that there were no adequate arrangements in place to ensure that the Trust was aware of which standards are applicable to them, and therefore what is required to ensure compliance. So we have looked into that. We submitted evidence to the Commissioner to evidence Arwen's compliance with the Welsh language standards. And at the time of submitting this report, we have not received a response from the Commissioner in relation to this yet. There's also an outstanding complaint in relation to Mynydd Cynfig School consultation. Again, evidence has been provided to the Commissioner and we are also waiting the outcome of that complaint. There have been no further outstanding complaints. So again, I'd just like to take the committee to the recommendation of this report and ask you receive and consider it. Thank you.
Thanks, Phil. Could I get a Cabinet member to move and to second the report, please?
Yeah, happy to move. Councillor Good.
Far, seconder.
Happy to second,
Councillor
Chair.
Good.
Thank you for all rushing in at once. I'll take that from the leader. Any comments or questions for Phil on this? Nope. Okay, nothing from me either. So we'll move on to agenda item number 9, which is Welsh Language Standards Annual Report 21-22, which is page 53 in your packs. Phil, if you could take us through this, please.
Thank you, Chair. Again, the purpose of this report is to inform committee of the content and approach taken with the Council's 7th Welsh Language Standards Annual Report for 21 to 22. As I mentioned previously, the Welsh Language Standards outline 171 standards that require compliance. Standards 158, 164 and 170 require the Council produce and publish an annual report in Welsh each year by the 30th of June. The standards that relate to publishing an annual report do not require it to be approved by the Council or the Welsh Language Commissioner prior to publication, as was previously required under the Welsh Language Scheme. So the Council's annual report covers the period April 21 to 31st of March 2022 and was published on the 29th of June. It outlines how the Council continues with compliance as well as highlighting any new developments or areas of progress within the period. You can find the Welsh version of the annual report starting on page 57 of your pack, together with the English version starting on page 67. As part of this, there is a duty on us to report on the following specific information. We need to report on the number of complaints received by the Council during the period, the number of employees who disclosed Welsh language skills as at 31st of March 22, the number of employees attending training courses offered in Welsh during the period, and the number of new and vacant posts advertised during the period categorised by Welsh language skills. The categories are essential, desirable, need to be learnt, and not required. So in addition to the above, we've also included updates on equality impact assessments, customer contact, and Welsh language promotional activities. I'd therefore like to take this opportunity to briefly go through the annual report with yourselves. The report identifies compliance and developments with several areas, including general compliance, service delivery standards, policy making standards, operational standards, record keeping standards, employee skills and training, and also recruitment and selection. It also provides an update on reception services, equality impact assessments, and the promotion and awareness raising of Welsh language and Welsh culture. The annual report is included within your packs. I won't go through it in detail, however, I will highlight some areas for you. So within general compliance, the corporate induction programme has a specific section dedicated to the Welsh language and its importance, as does our manager induction e-learning module, which signposts new managers to other information resources. We continue to provide a range of Welsh language training and resources for staff. For the service delivery standards, we've continued to develop our online digital platform, enabling users to access council services and report issues such as pest control and street lighting via the platform through the medium of Welsh. And we have appointed a Welsh language officer within the team who will support the lead officer to monitor compliance and deliver the Welsh language promotional strategy. Within policy making standards, we continue to monitor our EIA process to ensure that we assess the impact of any policy, practice or strategic decision on the use of Welsh language, and to ensure that the Welsh language is treated no less favourably. Also, an awarding grants policy has been written, and once approved and adopted by the Council, will be shared with officers who administer grants. Within operational standards, we've continued to make progress in the development of the Welsh medium childcare settings across the County Borough. A steering group made up of childcare professionals and third sector colleagues has been established and meets regularly to ensure effective delivery over the next 3 years. We have worked with partners to promote our Welsh essential jobs, allowing us to recruit additional Welsh speakers to improve our Welsh offering. And following a public consultation, we have published a second Welsh language strategy and action plan, which aims to build on the progress made in the Welsh language strategy 2016 to 2021. Within record keeping standards, we are continuing to monitor and record the number of employees accessing training courses through the medium of English and Welsh. And you can see that section 4 for further details of this. We record Welsh language skills of employees and assessments of new and vacant posts. In relation to complaints, there were no complaints received under the policy making standards, and I've already mentioned to the committee in the previous report the complaint that was received in relation to Arwen. So for employee skills and training, Welsh language skills continue to be recorded within the workforce data. 26 employees have attended customer mynediad training, enabling them to develop their language skills further, and these courses included Foundation and Sylfaen Parts 1, 2 and 3. There were 34 Welsh language e-learning module completions during 2021 to 22. For recruitment and selection, a number of new and vacant posts were advertised during the year, where 23 identified Welsh language skills as essential and 714 posts identified Welsh language skills as desirable. In relation to reception services, contact centres and telephone contact centres, the annual report shows the demand for Welsh services in both the customer and telephone contact centres. And due to the closure of Civic, no face-to-face visits were recorded against any languages. Due to this, we expected to see an uplift in telephone and online contact. And whilst this was the case, we have seen a decrease in the number of requests to speak to us in Welsh. Out of the total of 120,783 calls received in the year, only 63 calls were received in Welsh, which was 0.05% of all calls. So in terms of promoting and raising awareness of the Welsh language and Welsh culture, the Council has promoted several events and activities during the last financial year. And whilst I won't go through them all, they include St Dwynwen's Day, St David's Day, the Year of Summer of Fun, Welsh Language Rights Day, and Welsh Medium Education. So the detail of these promotional activities will be documented as part of a reporting process for our Welsh language strategy and will be reported on at the next committee meeting in November. So finally, I'd like to take you to the report recommendation and ask the committee receives and notes the contents together with the Welsh language standards annual report of 21 to 22. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Phil. Could I get a cabinet member to move and second the report, please?
Happy to move, Councillor Good.
Thank you, Councillor Farr. And the seconder?
Happy to second, Chair.
Thank you, Leader. Anyone have any questions or comments on this report? Okay, I mean, just one from me, and it's just a note, really. Members may have seen, I sent an email around to everyone a few weeks ago, because I've been working with Democratic Services to enable members to have access to the same courses as officers do in terms of learning Welsh, because I think it is important that we as a council and as the representatives on the council are seen to be taking up these opportunities and learning. So I encourage all members, if they've got a little bit of time, a couple of hours a week, I'm starting in September, that you'll all come along, all start learning some Welsh, because I think it is really important, and it is important that people are seeing us actively taking part in this. So I encourage all members to do that. If there's nothing else, I don't see any hands. I'll thanks to Phil for all of the reports except one. You can go have a sit down and oh, I've seen actually Councillor David, Leader, if you want to come in.
Yeah, just very quickly, thank you, Chair. It was following on from a meeting we recently held with one of our secondary school head teachers, and it was about the work we're doing around the support for the use of the language in cultural and social settings. I think the different reports we've had over the years demonstrate very well the significant progress we're making, for example, around Welsh medium childcare and Welsh medium education, and major expansion taking place there. But it's that use of the Welsh language in a social context, and giving those people who have, particularly young people who've learned Welsh and anyone else who's learned Welsh, and perhaps living English-speaking families, that opportunity to speak Welsh, and a lot of the majority, for example, the large majority of children who attend Welsh medium schools, primary and secondary schools in the borough, come from English-speaking families, so they don't always get the opportunity to speak Welsh. They don't get the opportunity to speak Welsh at home, and then outside the home is more limited. And I know we do a lot, and we'll do a lot around summer play schemes, for example, and summer activities. But I think it would be helpful if we could explore, certainly with Arwen as the organisation we commission to deliver our arts and cultural services, if there are additional opportunities. And I certainly I've certainly seen previously funding the Welsh Government has made available for Welsh language centres for adults. So I don't know if that funding is still available and how difficult or easy it is to secure that funding. But I think it's something that we should consider, because I think that will help in terms of our wider objectives and aims around the Welsh language. So if we could pick that up, Chair, Phil, I think that would be an important area for us to explore further, whilst of course recognising that we are doing very well, broadly speaking, in terms of our other aims and objectives. I think that's an area we'll want to think about, and I want us to consider now and in the future. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Leader. I don't know whether you've got anything to add on that, Phil?
Just to come back, just to let you know, Leader, that we have Alex, who's our consultation engagement and equalities manager, has sort of reached out to some local organisations in terms of Welsh language. So one of them being Bryn College. So we will be sort of attending their sort of like coffee mornings they hold for Welsh language speakers to get together. So I was again an opportunity really, so we can sort of get have a foot in our door really to get in there, starting discussing and raising the profile of with the council, and helping that as well. And we've also sort of started building relationships better with Mentor Pro Ogur, and other Welsh language companies around the authority. So we'll definitely take that on board as well and look at those opportunities with Darwin. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Leader, I see you still have your hand up. Is this still?
I'm just taking it down, and thanks very much to fill in yourself, Chair, for that.
Thanks, Leader. Okay, well, if there's no more, I'll move on to the final item on the agenda, which is urgent items. I can tell the committee I haven't received any. So with that, I'd like to thank all members and officers for attending, and I'll formally close the meeting. Thank you all.